Welcome, Chai listeners, to another episode of Chai After Dark. I'm Sameem, your co-host, and today we discuss Pakistan's first 2D animated film, The Glassworker, with our friends from the Salaam Nerds podcast, Neebs and Jazz. Stay tuned next week for our episode in conversation with Usman Riaz. He is the director of The Glassworker. That was an amazing discussion we had, and I encourage everyone to check it out next week upon release. Enjoy the episode.
Thank you guys for joining us, Salaam Nerds. Can you guys tell us a little bit about your podcast and the background so our listeners can get a feel for that?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Neebs. I have a TikTok and Instagram account called Watch with Neebs. We started it during COVID, just watching TV shows and reacting to it. And then after that, we started doing a podcast where we did reviews and we analyzed the Marvels and Star Wars type of TV shows, very much nerd content, everything that has a fandom. And then we also started doing a little bit of reality TV, which is like The Bachelor, Love is Blind.
Interesting.
All the stuff, anything that has a fandom, we're in the trenches covering it, analyzing it, critiquing it, and just having a good time with our audience. And it's been a wild ride. We've been 2021, I believe, is when we started it. So we're going strong.
Wow. That's awesome. You guys are veterans over here. We just started in August, so we're still babies in this space, but we're focusing on kind of South Asian-ish content, although we're broadening that a bit as we move forward in 2025. And so we'll see where we go. We're evolving as we speak. So
Love that.
Yeah.
We are also a little bit heavy on the South Asian and the Muslim content, but we also like to point out that Salam is actually a universal term that every Arabic speaking religion uses. And it's a universal term that just means peace. So it's kind of open to everybody.
nice. Very cool.
Really nice.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So today we're here to talk about The Glassworker.
Yes.
What a beautiful movie. Oh my God, it was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Who cried? Raise your hands.
I cried
I
the
was
first
like-
time.
I was like on the verge of I was like having anxiety and I couldn't cry, but I wanted to cry. It was very emotional.
I cried at a very interesting part. Not a part you would think someone would cry at, but it was there's this one scene that really got me. And I was like, oh, damn, that one got me.
Was it when the dad said, "I'm proud of you"?
I've never heard that before from a dad. They should have to say it. How did that happen? That's when you know this is fiction.
Oh my God.
Because no
already
into,
Pakistani,
like-
no Pakistani dad is really telling you that they're
No,
proud.
never. Yeah.
Well, I knew it was fiction when he brought the girl over without his dad, and his dad comes in and his dad's just like concerned about her
Yeah.
being in the glass shop and not anything else. I was like,
Yeah.
that's
But we're in
Vincent,
consensus.
you.
We all liked it, right? It's 5. Are we giving it a 5 out of 5? Do you guys do ratings?
I want to give it a 9 out of 10. But we can talk
Okay.
about why that not like the 1 point later. It's really the ending, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
interesting. Okay.
I usually rate on a report card scale, so I give it an A. So that's anywhere between a 90 and 100.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
pretty similar. I would hesitant to be like A+, but definitely 90 to 100, depending on on what you think.
Wait, what's an A+ if that includes 100?
I don't know, like Slumdog Millionaire maybe? Or is that like not an A+?
No, like I agree. Slumdog Millionaire is an A+. I'm just like, you said 90 to 100, and then you're
Let's
like,
say
oh yeah,
90
it's
to
on
99.
A+.
90
I'm like,
to 99.
what's an A+
There's no
in your
100.
world?
We're all brown. Our math should be a little better.
No, I'm not that. I am that kind of brown. I'm Pakistani, but I missed some of my math classes growing up, so I wasn't all quite there. Yeah.
Way to rebel
But-
against the stereotype. I appreciate
I did
it.
love the movie though, so I got this cup. It just came in the mail, like literally. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, what does it say on there?
It's the Glassworker.
Oh, that's
Put
so
it
cool.
closer and turn the artwork a
There
little
you
bit.
go.
Oh yeah,
There
there
you
it
go.
is.
There
it
we
is.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Nice.
beautiful.
Wouldn't it make more sense for the glass to be made out of glass? For the glass worker.
Oh yeah, a glass mug. Yeah.
It's a nice porcelain mug.
Nice.
Yeah.
Porcelain Maker is a sequel that's coming out.
I went to go see it, and little did I know that the director and the CEO, so Usman and Khizr, were going to be there as well to do like a Q&A. on the same page as everybody on this panel. It was a really good movie to watch, especially in a movie theater with a lot of people. One of you guys did see it with a bunch of people, right?
Yeah, I went to go see it at the TCF screening. So TCF is a charity here in New York, and they did a screening. So everyone, said they were coming to watch a movie, but they really want to find out if there's any more brown single people there. So that's really why everyone was there.
Of
But
course,
it was,
naturally.
of course, right? But it was a really cool experience. Again, Usman was there, and he did a little Q&A for us, and he talked a little bit about how it got started and the 5-10 years that it took, to build this studio, and him going down to Studio Ghibli and getting inspiration and some, advice from them. It was really cool to see. And then people also had some questions about, the stories and why certain things were chosen in certain ways to portray in this movie. It was really cool to see that. So I had a good time. It was a really cool event. So there's a bunch of them happening all over. They just had one in Arizona about a week ago in Phoenix. So keep your eyes out. They're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm waiting for them to actually get like a streaming deal somewhere. I think that would be really cool to be able to get this out to like an even more massive audience. Hopefully they get nominated, and then that should be pretty much the step after, I would assume.
Is this movie
hope so.
getting the same sort of traction in Pakistan, or are we in a bubble in the US? Because that's one thing I was curious about.
Good question.
I don't know, because I know it
did he
came out
mention
in the
anything about that?
summer in
Oh,
Pakistan.
was that Jess?
Yeah.
It came out in the summer in Pakistan, right? Or was it
I
just
know
like
it's
another
out there.
screening? Yeah, like I see online that Geo Films distributing it, and they have 30 million in box office revenue right now, in 30 million rupees. So I don't know if that's successful or not at that conversion rate.
Yeah, what's that quick math? I don't know. Divided by 50.
You
It's
missed
about
math class,
100,000.
so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm surprisingly, both my siblings, like neither of them had heard of it, and so I'm wondering if maybe I'm in a bubble or something. It's just interesting to see sort of like how prolific, I guess, it is. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
as
it's
we
in
go
it's,
forward.
the marketing that they're doing it's interesting to see what gets picked up on, because it was an Instagram ad that I had seen initially, and I just kind of like saw it. Okay, cool, that's cool. All right, just keep on scrolling through. So it didn't really pique my interest. You got to have multiple touch points when it comes to marketing, and just remember. So it wasn't until the reminder from Secret Movie Club Craig, hey, I got this Glassworker. I'm like, oh shit, I saw an ad for that. Of course, yeah, let me go. So they're doing all these bits and pockets of screenings, and this last month in December, they were doing a bunch of that. When I was talking to Khizr a little bit, there were, the whole month of December was, hey, we got to do this screening, we got to do this screening, we're doing this screening. I think they were looking at Pakistani, South Asian
Touring.
pockets around the US. But I don't recall anybody doing a
Nice.
Bay Area version. There's a lot of Bay Area daisies too, so I didn't hear about that over
I'm surprised I didn't do one here in Houston. Like,
Yeah,
we
same.
have
Yeah,
so many brown people here.
yeah. Cool. So I'll kind of set the stage of sort of how the story begins, and we can kind of get into it from there. So basically, this story is about a glass worker and a glass worker's son, and him meeting a colonel and her daughter. Right. So we open with, the beautiful glassworking shop and all of the beautiful artifacts within the shop, and we see that Vincent, the main character, his dad's teaching him how to be a glass worker, and there's also this addition of this character, the Jinn, that he believes is in this cave on the waterfront near his house. What do you guys think of this like Jinn character? I didn't know how to feel about it. It was kind of in some senses random. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, to talk about it, I would have to talk about a little bit about the ending or whatnot, because the thing is, I don't know if the Jinn is even real, right? Because
Yeah.
there is a spiritual element to this, or it's all in his head, and he's had a mental break, and he's imagining this. Because not only did he have the trauma of what happened to Elise, but also his mom dies right in the beginning,
Yeah.
and it might be a way that he used to cope with the loss of his mom. So
Mhm.
like throughout the entire movie, I've gone back and forth to being like, is this real? Is this happening? Is this in his head? And I think that's been one of the things that I found really interesting about this movie, because it plays with you a little bit. It's like
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of, we're seeing it from his point of view, but he's almost like an unreliable narrator at this point, because we don't know how he's been dealing with this.
Yeah. And speaking of the narration, a lot of the movie is narrated through a letter that Elise sends him. So in one of
Right.
the first scenes, he opens a box and he sees this like beautiful glasswork piece of like this blue purple butterfly and a letter. And the letter is basically a letter from Elise to him talking about how they met. And at various points in the movie, we'd see the story being told through that letter.
And you already put the note in, Shabnam, but you guys are aware of Ghost Rider on PBS from like
Yeah.
30 years back?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Way back in the day.
I'm well aware of what that is, Shabnam. Like,
Yeah.
it literally looks like what the animated film looked like. It was like a small sparkle that goes in between and like saves you at the last minute. And you guys are completely correct. I don't know if this djinn like saved him from anything, or if the djinn is Elise, or if it's like my experience in Pakistan where I thought there was djinns everywhere. When I would stay there over the summer, I thought djinns were everywhere. So
I think
it might be that.
I think the djinn's in love with Vincent and then took the form of Elise to try to leave. The djinn was down bad. The djinn was down
had
bad.
that thought. I wasn't sure though.
Interesting.
I mean,
Hot take.
Or I was
Hot
like,
take.
Or I was like, is Elise the djinn? Like Elise, maybe she was never real. Maybe the djinn's always been in her.
Okay, so if we go there,
That's what I thought.
I don't think so. I thought
Because the
Elise
dad,
is already far gone. Whether she's dead from war or something like that, she's gone. Right? He just the djinn takes the form because the djinn is the master manipulator in Vincent's life. So it just takes the form, and Vincent's like already gone crazy once. He's like, oh, there you are. Okay, let's live happily ever after. Because he was just like, forget it, and then there's Elise. So I think they did hook up.
The djinn and him?
I mean, they did.
I mean,
we just don't know. I guess
the djinn did enter him once, right?
I mean, Islamically, it is believed that jinns do fall in love with people. It happens all the time, which is probably why I'm not married.
You've been sabotaged.
I've been jinn sabotaged.
You're on the Bachelor of Jinns or whatever.
You need to go to like Umrah or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know. I need to sacrifice a goat.
We can't be talking about this because it's about to be dark here in like 30 minutes. And wait, it must already be dark where you are then. Like I thought you can't talk.
It's totally dark out here.
After sunset.
Isn't there a superstition? Yeah.
Oh, you guys are screwed.
Yeah, it's okay. My djinn pays me rent. We're good.
The original setup of the movie was talking about what a djinn is and where they're from, and so that they exist. To me, they exist in this world that Usman has created.
Yeah, so he says that jinns come from fire, and they're shapeshifters. They can become pets, animals, or take the human form, right? So, and then after that, well, obviously we're jumping ahead and all that, but just to give the listener a little more context, after that, she actually asks, like, "Can I come to your shop to see it?" And he's like, "Okay." And so he goes back home, and his dad, is basically like, she can't come to the shop. She's this famous colonel's daughter. And if she gets hurt, like, we're going to go to jail. So, he knows that, okay, his dad doesn't want him to, but the next day he sees her out with her friend Penny, and she's like insisting. So he's like, okay, come day after tomorrow. Cause he knows that his dad's not going to be home at that time. So she comes to the shop and she asks him to make something, which he's never really made anything on his own at that point. He's still pretty young, and he makes this sort of glass rock with an imprint of a rose inside it. And just as he's finishing up, his dad walks in and busts them, and his dad tells her to basically leave. But that's the beginning of where we get this story of like, why is this movie called The Glassworker?
That was a beautiful piece of rose, by the way. The piece that he actually makes as a child, that was like a consistent theme throughout the movie as well. It was beautiful. Like, I wish it was like real.
I thought
they should have put that on the merch shop.
Yes. I would have bought that and then saved it for my significant other that doesn't exist yet.
Same,
Or
dude.
or the
Maybe
gin.
yours is a gin too.
Oh God,
It's
no!
a common
Don't
theme
even.
today. Are we all like lonely and single, or what's going on?
Oh yeah,
Friday night.
Not
come on,
me.
dude.
The other thing about the glass making is that, like, even before this movie even came out, the algorithm found me, and I used to watch glass blowing on TikTok all the time. This is always to come up on my For You page, and it's really, really fascinating. It's really
Yeah.
cool to see the way they do it, the way they make intricate designs. And when I watched the animated movie, they did their research. Like, I was like, this is exactly what they showed on TikTok and on the documentaries on Netflix and stuff like that. There's documentaries and stuff. And I was like, they really did their research. They didn't just like make up stuff, but they actually showed all the step-by-step process on like how to make glass. And I thought that was really cool.
And that's one of the things I
Yeah,
pick up from
me
like the
too.
documentary itself, and Usman explaining where he wanted to have more frames, more frame rates around certain scenes, so they can create more scenes and do a lot more harder work for those types of scenes. And yeah, it's like the detail of those specific scenes really show, and they show the danger. Like Vincent was scared to do it. I know there's like it's extremely dangerous to glass blow also. Like if you take a deep breath in, you're done for. That glass like enters your lungs, you're done for. That's it. So
That's how his mom died, right? He mentioned that his mom had lung issues, and it's, I think, insinuated that like the glass blowing is probably what did her in, because she had health lung issues.
Interesting. I
that
thought
did not
maybe
cross
she
my
just had
mind.
asthma.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Oh, wait till
Yeah.
you hear my hot take about the mother.
Oh yeah.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's drop it
You
now.
want to save it or yeah?
I'll drop it now. The Jinn is the mom.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting. It's like a
Oh,
guardian
yeah.
djinn.
Okay, wait,
It's
now
like
that's
a
weird,
guardian
though.
angel djinn.
Because
Yeah,
that's weird that she becomes
the end comes out
Elise.
a little weird.
Yeah, but it could be.
Except
I think that's a good take.
This version, yeah, in my headcanon is that they didn't hook up, but this is just the mom protecting her son, preventing him from going full mental breakdown, showing him that this is what could have been, and instead you should live, and hopefully you have something like this in the future.
Okay, but
Yeah.
there's a strong but here.
Let's go.
The one scene where the Jinn makes him go crazy during the scene where they're delivering these items to the army, and then he just goes ballistically nuts. And spoiler alert, Dad has a major injury because of this Jinn entering Vincent's mind at the time. So that part is the weird part to me.
No, so the Jinn brought some of his mental semblance back in that moment, because if he was fully gone, the dad could have been hurt even worse.
The Jinn was already in him when he decided to not use the formulaic sand or whatever to make the thing. So I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if I buy
yeah,
that.
that's right. That's right.
But maybe he would have actually delivered the box with the bad pieces if the Jinn didn't stop him.
He pulls back, right? He says, I thought it was only going to ground the planes, not blow them up.
Yeah.
So he pulls back. I don't know if...
Oh, he snaps out of it.
I'm not sure.
He kind of just snaps out of it.
He snaps out of it, yeah.
Yeah, but that's also like a kind of commentary on war, right? Like people can easily go into like bloodlust and like hatred, uncontrollable hatred and rage, right? So
yeah, he wanted to kill them all. That's like initially he was like, I'm going to show them something.
And it was his own people that he wanted to
It was his
kill.
own people, yeah.
Protecting it.
The first time the Jinn appears, shove them in your notes, is just helps him pick out that butterfly. So this Jinn's been around since he was a kid, and he seems really, really comfortable with it as the movie's a flashback, or flash forward, I guess. But he's an adult reading that letter, and the Jinn's still flying around. I don't really know. I don't know how real Jinns can fall.
I wonder why the
humans.
dad...
Insane.
Does the dad not know about the Jinn at all? Because the dad, when he was even before Vincent was pulling up all the sand, I'm sure the dad had to go down to the beach and pull up all the sand. He didn't run into the cave Jinn at all, ever?
But I think the jinns are like selective on who they show themselves to. So
Yeah.
probably didn't want to show themselves to his dad. Maybe they showed himself to his mom because his mom also lived there, right? So I don't know.
Interesting.
Could the Jin
Yeah.
have
So
killed his
one
mom?
other quick. Now we're
Man,
getting dark. Now
That
I
would
mean the
be
Jin's
real dark.
Yeah.
No,
The
it was a
Jin's
lack
supposed
of
to be good.
oxygen that killed her because she couldn't breathe.
Oxygen.
But
Wah, wah.
bunch. Yeah. Yeah. No, but the little glass flower piece that we were talking about, he eventually the next day goes and delivers it to Elise outside of her school, and she's like, "Oh, this is so beautiful! I can see the whole world in this." And he makes this comment where he gets insecure. He's like, definitely one day I'm going to make something better than this for you. I promise. Right. And, he does do that. But that was interesting because there's like a full circle moment with that later when he eventually makes her this butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
it's a love movie, right? Within itself, the love story. Like,
Yeah.
Straight up.
classism, war, sure, war is bad. Seems like they won at the end. He has a pretty good life. We already said the dad's arm got.
The dad was super ripped, though. I gotta say, bro
Yeah.
had arms.
That's
He
that
only needed
Studio
one,
Ghibli. That's that Studio Ghibli arm, dude. It's just like, woo. Give me that anime arm.
Oh man.
I need to start.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what we need to do? We need to start a glass blowing class in New York and make people get ripped arms and be like, "Let's do it. It's a workout."
Well, the Netflix documentary, all of those people are in pretty great shape because it takes a lot of glass is actually really, really heavy.
Yeah.
And that's if I didn't watch that, it would be hard to follow this in animated form. So that was really helpful that I had seen that already.
I think I'm cool off glass blowing. I don't think I have the lung capacity.
It just reminded me of going to Disney. I don't know if they still have it there, but on Main Street, I thought there used to be a glass blowing kind of workshop. I don't know if it was Knott's Berry Farm or Disneyland, but there was a glass blowing. Hey, Samim, you went to Disneyland, didn't you?
No, I think you're right. Yeah. I went to Disneyland on Wednesday on New Year's Day with my daughter. But back in the day, yeah, you're right. There was like a glass blowing shop at Disney. But
And those were
I don't know
always
if it was
cool.
Knott's Berry Farm 20, 30 years back.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's a big one in Seattle. If you go to Seattle, there's a huge glass blowing museum, and they'll do it live right there in front of you. It's super cool.
Nice. Man, I need to get some glass. Like, I'm telling you, I already made this comment, but the merch and combining some glass, like, who knows? Especially if they get nominated for the Oscar, I feel like that could be some sort of viral moment for them.
That would
or
be
viral
cool.
merch.
Let's tell
I'd
them.
buy it.
We'll try.
So you see a lot of like class issues too in this movie, like especially with the introduction of this boy Malik, who goes to the same rich school that Elise goes to, and meanwhile Vincent, who even though he's her good friend, he's the glassblower's son. And when Malik meets Elise and her mom in the street, Elise's mom is like, "Oh, doesn't he look handsome in his uniform?" Which again is strange for a Desi mom to say. And then she also invites them to go to a cafe together. And we have this moment where Vincent's delivering some orders from his dad to the cafe, some dishes that his dad made. And Malik turns to him and goes, "Hey, isn't that pacifist son?" And like everyone in the cafe is all appalled. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, he's that crazy pacifist son."
Is that a issue in like Lost in Translation? Because pacifist doesn't sound as bad as like
No,
the
it doesn't.
movie makes it out to be.
Totally.
I feel like it's like
It's
something
definitely lost in translation.
It's lost in translation because it's probably a lot worse what they call him.
Like
Yeah,
someone
well-
who doesn't support his country. That's the only thing I could kind of think of. Like it's like more of a nationalism sort of thing.
Yeah.
Later
Yeah, he
on, she says
sacrifices life for
coward.
Pakistan.
Yeah, she does call him a coward later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought maybe that's what the translation should have been, is more like the coward son or whatever.
And what this isn't Pakistan, right? It's like an ambiguous country.
Yeah, it's like Pakistan coded, but it's not really. Like I think it's
It
supposed to be
can't be-
Karachi.
It has to
Yeah,
be
but
Karachi, right? That's where the beach is.
Well, I mean,
Go
like
ahead.
Usman said specifically, he wants to keep it very ambiguous. It doesn't mean that it's a South Asian country.
Yeah, there was a lot of redheads in the movie that I don't think we have that many redheads in Pakistan.
Oh, they're
So-
common.
You'd be surprised,
There's a
actually.
They're
handful.
common, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
in the north, right? But
Yeah.
like, I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
see that many in Karachi. So
I was just thinking, which auntie of mine does Eliza's mom remind me of? I was like, damn, I don't want to see that auntie
Elise.
anymore. Elise, I'm sorry,
Eliza.
Elise. It's like, dang, I've met plenty of those throughout my lifetime.
I've met those moms too. Like, I know Shubnam was like, oh yeah, I don't know a mom that's like, hinting to her daughter, hey, that boy's cute. But like, no, I've seen several moms like that will do that here. So that's very common.
I mean, I guess just because she seems young, right? She seems like she's
Yeah.
in high school as opposed to like in her 20s or whatever.
Well, I think
No,
this is
even then.
it's a different time, right? They were getting married at 14, 15.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think
Were they
that's what
not,
this
or-
movie was.
They
trying
were,
to do.
but that's
They were like I think that's why. Like my mom was 17, so like,
Wow.
and we weren't like that bamboo, like just for like I don't know.
Just lay it on thick, Samim.
I wasn't around. Like it wasn't my decision. So
You don't want to be held accountable for that. So there's also the scene where they go running in the park, Elise and Vincent, and are chasing after the butterflies. And that's where, again, we see this butterfly symbolism. But then they lie down on the grass and they see overhead that the warplanes are going overhead. And she's like all excited and she jumps up. She's like waving to them. And then he's just kind of like he's doesn't approve of all this. So that was kind of, it goes along with what we're saying. Another interesting scene that was very funny to me was when the warplanes are going over her house and then her dad suddenly parachutes out of it and comes home, and that's how he returns home with all these gifts for them. I was like, okay, this is interesting.
where did he keep the gifts? Where did he keep them all?
Yeah.
Yeah, where was that violin really?
Yeah. I know. I'm like, is this possible? Do I just don't know that? Is that how like
This is
do people-
Desi dads showing
Yeah.
affection.
maybe that's how Colonels got home. Yeah.
Yeah, this is typical Desi dad. They won't tell you that they love you. They're just going to parachute from the sky and give you a gift and say, "Here we go. I love you. There you go."
And here's
Yeah.
some fruit.
Here's some
Yeah.
spoils of war that I took from some random guy.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And then the funny thing is she feels weird about that, the fact that she can see someone else's name on the violin. And the mom is like the least likable character because she's basically like, oh, don't pay any attention to that. It's the spoils of war. Just don't think too much about it. And it's just like, okay, lady.
Hard agree. She is the worst character in this whole thing. And I don't mean worse like she's bad. Like I just don't like her. But that means the actresses and the animators did a wonderful job with that character.
Yeah. Also, speaking of that, the voice acting is amazing on the show. It's not like a typical Pakistani drama. It actually feels like a Studio Ghibli movie with Pakistani voice actors in Urdu. And I never thought how much I would want that until I actually got it. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
some
that
work,
was really
though.
amazing.
It worked.
Like
Yeah.
I did like the voice acting, do not get me wrong, but can it be improved? Absolutely. Like some of the scenes felt flat almost, like there could have been a bit more emotion, but yeah, like it's the first film, it's Pakistan's first feature film like this. They're gonna figure it out, and this is a great starting point for
Sounds like we're hearing the point one.
them.
Oh,
Yeah, you are.
Mm.
there you go.
Nice.
That's why I gave it a 9 out of 10. Yep, that's why. Like, it's these little things, the ending being a little ambiguous, a little too ambiguous, and then the voice acting, like, a little not emotional, not as much as I hoped it would be. But that's
I really
that's
liked the
what it was
voice
for me.
acting. I was a big fan, especially.
No, it was
Elise and
great in most
Vincent.
places. It was great in most places. Vincent's voice actor was phenomenal. But then others, I'm just like, oh, really? That's it? Like, it
Like
felt
who?
almost forced. Malik, for example, right?
Mm.
He was over animated, or like his voice was overdone in many scenes. There were a handful of scenes with Elise, like she felt like someone was reading that line. It wasn't like that emotional, but then in other places her lines were just phenomenal, like when her and Vincent got in a fight at the train station. Like that part was great, but then other parts, not so much. So yeah, it can be improved upon. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I feel like that was
Alright.
more of her character, though. She is a little bit more reserved, so she doesn't get
Mhm.
as emotional. So I think it worked well for me, at least.
I don't know. The
Interesting.
animation made it seem like much more was going on than what the voices led on to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can see that because over animated characters, like the two guards at the end of the film when Vincent is trying to go to the performance, those guards
Yeah.
like the woman guard obviously was 50-50 with Vincent, but the other guard was like, I'm either gonna ruin this guy's life or throw him off the bridge or something. Like he was gonna do something. So I don't know if that was a commentary on like, well, we know what it's commentary on barbarism and of war and things like that, but yeah, they were over animated as well. So I can see your point. I just didn't think about it like that. Like, yeah, I totally. I've never really watched animated films feature length other than a few Pixar films. So yeah,
okay.
so I liked it.
No, I'm like a big anime fan. Like I'm
Oh,
watching
cool.
all of them. So yeah, like maybe I'm spoiled. Maybe that's what it is.
But that's good. We already said this in the beginning, 90 to 100, or my math that doesn't add up into an A. It's really hard to get an A+, right? Like
Yeah.
even Slumdog Millionaire, I had some things that we could improve on, but barely any. Like,
right?
Yeah, definitely. Their dancing at the end needed improvement.
no, come on. Jai Ho? Really?
Did you say Chai Ho? Chai Ho.
Jai Ho, dude.
Chai.
That's you, bro.
So anyways, then we see how their relationship develops, but there's always these differences between them, right? Like they're kind of like, I don't know, an animated They See West Side Story-ish kind of a story here. But eventually what happens is that Colonel Amano, Elise's dad, goes to the glassworking shop and kind of threatens Vincent's dad to start making this glass casing for this rectifier component for the warplanes, and if he doesn't do that, he's going to get mandatorily drafted. So he needs to do it, or he's going to have to leave Vincent, which he'll never do. So he ends up actually manufacturing those glass cases, and so they decide basically that he should stay where he is and do it because it's actually the perfect cover, since everybody thinks that he is a pacifist, and so no one will suspect that he's actually helping. So that was kind of a crazy turn of events. So it was like, wow, this is getting a little dark.
What's a rectifier?
Don't ask.
Is it?
Come on, nobody knows.
Is it some kind of battery?
I don't know. I think it's made up, right? Or
It rectifies things.
Was rectifier just a placeholder for him in the movie?
No. It's an actual thing.
It's an actual thing.
What it does in real life is that it converts alternating current to direct current. And I like.
Oh,
I
it just
know.
changes
Neebs, you're the
AC to
engineer.
DC. It just changes
exactly.
AC to DC. Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Now, that would have been lit
interesting. Okay.
if he got licensing for an AC/DC song right at that moment. Way to hell. That would have been lit.
I don't know if that's the vibe he was going for, but maybe in the second film.
Yeah. Well, so while Colonel Amano's in the glass shop, he actually buys this beautiful piece that Vincent made, and he takes it home and puts it on his mantle. And again, his wife gets like pissed about it. She's like, why did you buy this from those past? And he's like, he's a 14-year-old kid. He can't really call him like a coward or a pacifist or whatever the right translation of that Urdu word is. When we see her consistent character development, but it's like flawed character, I think.
yeah.
Consistently getting worse across the entire film.
Yeah.
I hated her more and more as the movie went on.
But I did like the fact that Elise, when it gets to the end of the movie, she decides to keep the glass that Vincent made, but throws the violin in the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was really cool too. Yeah, because you kind of see how she's evolving as she learns more. There's a cool line at one point in the movie where she says like, my dad used to return from the spoils of war and it used to feel like a holiday and we'd have so much joy, but there's really no joy in war. It's just like a disease that infects everything. And I was like, yeah, she's learning as she goes along, even though she's coming from this like staunch military family.
She's woke.
She has the best character development. Like she's the one that gets like developed has an actual arc. that goes
Mhm.
from someone who's just, a spoiled girl who is, an army colonel daughter to someone who's really like questioning like what's happening in the country and in the world. And it's cool to see her development. And even though she is developing, there are parts of her where she's still like, Malik and my dad are brave. They're fighting for this country. What have you done? So you can see this internal struggle within her to be like, I do believe what they're doing is brave, but I also do believe that war is bad. And how do you, rectify that in your head? And I find that part of the movie really interesting.
Yeah. So that argument scene that you guys are referencing in the train station is after the war progresses and her dad goes off to war and so does Malik, and then the train station gets bombed with both of them in it as they're like walking through it. So they run for cover, and it comes up really funnily because Vincent's stomach is growling and he says, "Oh, I should have got some gulab jamun from the market." And then she says, "Oh yeah, Malik also talks about how the gulab jamun from the market is really good in his letters and he misses it." And it's like, wait, what? And you could see that he gets hurt by that because he likes her and he's like, "Why is Malik sending you all these letters?" Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes like, he probably wants to marry you. And she says, "What, did you hit your head or something?" And he says, "You should marry him, then you can waste your life just like your mother." Which I was like, damn, that's pretty.
Got her.
It's like,
Got her
don't
good.
say things you're going, like the whole time I'm thinking like, yeah, she's good because she understands, like what Neebs was saying, like you have these both sides and she understands it and she wants to be super respectful for the guy that she actually likes, knowing he's a pacifist son, knowing what he's doing. You have the classist of a general and a glass worker. They wouldn't probably approve of that marriage. They would want to keep it in the army, keep it in the military family, so to speak. And she's the one being respectful while he's instigating left and right. I was like, come on, dude. Don't spoil the bag. Don't drop the bag. Come on, man.
Yeah.
He fumbled
the bag.
Yeah. Well, and then she tells him, like, what's wrong with that? My dad and Malik are brave men, just like you were saying, Neebs. And they went off to war, not like you. So she sticks it back to him. And she says, and anyways, I'm going to be a famous musician. I love this scene because they're like jabbing each other. He goes on to say, "You're a great violin player, but you will never be an artist because all you do is play other people's music. Real artists write their own music and perform their own songs." And then he tells her, she's never going to be an artist like he is. I was like, okay.
Damn, he called her a cover artist.
Yeah.
He called her like a parody.
Yeah.
He's like, you just cover parodies. Like, you don't do shit. Like
you're the Weird Al Yankovic of violence.
Yeah, you're just some weirdo Al Yankovic. Man, he insulted her pretty good. He got her pretty good. Like all these years of buildup or something. Like he just couldn't make her, his girlfriend or his wife. He just had to like get her. But after this scene, it just gets like, I was surprised that he walked her home, right? Doesn't he walk her home after?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, we just got bombed. I like told you to go marry some rando guy that you had cake with your mom. I'm about to get killed, but the one thing I'm thinking about is you." Like it's very like love story, He can't like really think about anything else.
I hate you. I hate you. I love you.
Exactly.
But because also like at the end of the conversation, she tells him that like she's plans to leave for school and go to this fancy music school for, I guess, college or whatever, right? So he realizes that she's actually going to move away eventually. And I think that kind of makes him soften a little bit.
Nobody's been in love here, so there's no there's no comments.
Not with people. No, just kidding.
F that noise.
God damn, who hurt you?
You can listen to some previous episodes and all of it comes out. If you really want to know.
I need background. I need to know what's going on.
Context here.
So Neebs and Jazz. Okay, so if you ever you guys watch The Simpsons, you guys are nerds. Okay, so the McBain, and you know how there's like always like a 30-second clip of McBain in the early seasons, and then there was a dude that pieced them all together, and it was an actual storyline. I was like, holy crap, there was an actual McBain storyline throughout like 3 seasons or 4 seasons of The Simpsons. Samim is like that. He'll throw bits and pieces throughout each episode. So if you listen to each, we might have to compile it together. You'll get the full story at the end of it.
A full narrative. Okay.
That's
You know what?
fine.
I can't wait to hear
That's
it.
funny.
You got to keep the listener hooked, right? Like they want to know what's up, so they'll just listen. They'll listen next week, and maybe I'll tell them. Like
My favorite
maybe I
McBain
won't.
line is when he's present. He goes, "I am here to lead, not to read."
Accurate.
We'll put a link for the listener.
So, like Samim was saying, Vincent drops Elise home. And when he drops Elise home, her mom is really sad because they've just gotten word that her dad and Malik and all these characters have died, right? And she's very upset. But as an ode to her father, she starts to play the violin even more. And she knows that he loved her playing it. And so she becomes this amazing student. And then at the end of her high school or whatever school she's in, they have a concert and she is chosen to play the solo at that concert.
Yeah.
And she invites Vincent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And she plays it for her dad, but she decides to make an original piece because of Vincent.
Mhm.
And this song or this piece is actually an original piece because Usman talked about it. Like he's actually like got a full scholarship to Berkeley, and he's like very trained in music and stuff. And they were like, we need to create an original song for this. And if you look, even the hand placements on all the animations are accurate to the
Yeah.
tones and the notes and stuff, which is
Oh,
really really cool. So they took
interesting.
like a lot of detail with that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. When I was watching the movie, I thought that the music was fantastic. Like, and
Mhm.
the end scene that we've already referenced a couple times, where not the anti-climax, the actual climax, she's playing the solo, and they're using that music during that scene to set up like a very
Mhm.
climactic moment.
Yeah. Yeah, the music was incredible.
Usman is an interesting creative, right? As you mentioned, Berkeley School of Music. I think he dropped out from there. You know, these
Yeah, he dropped
geniuses
out.
like
You
they
do
come
that.
out, they're like, I'll go there. Nah, I need to do this now. It's like, yeah, bro, do it. But he also wanted to make sure that the frame rate of that scene was also up to par. When you have to make those frame rates, you have to do extra drawings. Anywhere that's the music and that close up of the hands, they purposely made sure that there was proper frame rates. And I was like, yeah, you got to be obsessive as a creative to point out those things that you really enjoy. And that includes that musical moment. He created the music. He wanted to make sure that music was like, that was really shown through that scene.
He mentioned at the showing that I went to that even the music has an arc, because when she starts playing, it's very mechanical, and as she gets better and better, it becomes more fluid, and like even the playing has a bit of an arc to it.
Yeah, I can kind of recall that now that you say that.
Yeah, interesting. I just that kind of geeks me up a little bit when you have a little bit of something else like music. Music plays a character. They are a character in the movie, and they have an arc in the movie. Like that's also fascinating to me.
Yeah, but so this kind of ties into the part where you guys were talking about earlier, those two soldiers who kind of harass him as he's basically trying to go see this concert of hers. And he needs the invitation in order to get in, but they harass him, they take the invitation, and he's like, "Can I have it back?" The male soldier's like, "Oh, this invitation?" And he tosses it into the water. And so he's never able to actually get in. So she thinks like he didn't show up. And so he climbs to the top of the building and peeks through and sees part of her performance, but she never knows that he's there, right? And he doesn't know that she wrote this music inspired by what he said to her about artists. And she's obviously disappointed that he's not there. But all that goes out the window when her dad and Malik basically walk in that they made it back from war. And Malik,
deserters.
yeah, so are they deserters?
They are the deserters.
Oh, interesting. I didn't pick that up. I thought they had to leave.
But they didn't really see.
They
didn't really see
dying.
say that they were deserters per se. They were on the lookout for deserters, and these guys happened to show up with the general.
On the lookout. I think they were mistaken for deserters. Like they thought they were deserters, but when they really got the full context of actually what happened, they basically had to leave because they lost at that battle.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's not like they brought the deserter claim up because that was the pretense of stopping Vincent on the bridge. Because he said there's been some deserters, and that's why they stop him. So I never got Vincent says deserters when he's standing on the balcony watching or trying to get down. But I thought that's why they had brought it up. But
I
it
thought
felt like they were heroes of war.
Yeah, they were. They are heroes of war. It's just that the rumors there were strong. And so the way I interpret it was that they left and they couldn't find them. No bodies, no reports, even though, they're just wounded and struggling. And then, the rumor spread that there could be deserters there. But in reality is that they're not deserters. They're just battered. And so when I first saw the scene, when they're like, oh, we have deserters about, I'm thinking, oh my God, these people have been mistaken as deserters. That's wild, because that is so ironic, considering they would make fun of Vincent Thomas as like pacifist. And for them to come back as, something that could shame the army and the nation. What a twist.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, we're approaching the ending, and Jazz, you were completely correct. The ending is so ambiguous because of these reasons that we're talking about.
The thing about the dad coming back as the deserter, I feel like it takes away from what actually happened in that moment between Vincent and Elise, because it's so sad and tragic that she never ever finds out that he was there. And I think that's the saddest part in the whole movie.
Yeah. But I think, like, isn't that kind of the point, right? These two, like, the world robs them of the happiness they could have together all the time. Like, that's the consistent theme throughout the movie.
We should have got a trigger warning. This was just I didn't know this was going to be so sad. I didn't know.
Let's make it clear. Neebs had a little frog in his throat that, like, if it can trigger you emotionally like that, like the build up to that moment, you're ready to kind of be like, oh my God, yes, they're finally going to get together. And then you see that not even happening. Like, you see the reasons why, and it just kind of hits you in a moment. I feel like it's a powerful movie that could do that in that moment, especially an animated movie that could do it.
And something they do to, I was gonna say, something they do to set that up so well is that he didn't have the gold or the copper to make the butterfly, and he used his mom's jewelry.
Yeah,
that got me too, man.
Yeah,
so good. Totally.
Yeah, it's like, and this is where what I was saying was, like, I was having anxiety, because I think anxiety is a bad way of describing it, but it's like a combination of complete sadness and then also anger at, like, the situation and why it is this way, that those two, like, emotions were kind of like at a tug of war when I was watching these scenes you're talking about.
Yeah, it felt like, to that point, it felt like Vincent was kind of like being a little bish, throughout. They're still trying to figure out their little boyish, girlish love, in that route. And they're like, they'll get together in the end. He'll grow up, and he does grow up to a certain extent, right? He pulled it all together for her, the love of his life, and therefore he's growing up. And he's mature enough to be like, okay, I'm going to fight for this love. I'm going to go over there, and here, this is how I'm going to express it. And he never got to do it. And that's what that really is. It sucks.
But I also feel like I want to cut him a little more slack, because his family is actually undercover doing this manufacturing for the army, and then they're being chastised and looked down upon as being these, like, cowardly pacifists, when they actually in the end up helping the army. And so I think that's always like an extra sting to him, that she looks down on him, but he's actually on the same side at that point.
I want to say, I'm going to defend her. All right, I think she was biting her tongue at some. She probably gets it from her family all the time, all that information from her side of the family all the time. So when they were in the train station that was bombed, that scene, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. She was biting her tongue. She's like, don't make me say this. Don't attack me. Don't make me say the things I want to say, because I do like you and I don't want to hurt your feelings. And until he ribbed her, he's like, yo, you do this. Your family does this. Then she blurted it out. She's like, you know what? Enough's enough. Like, here you go. And so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on that mark. Familial relationships, we've all have blurted stuff out or had to hold things back in the name of our families, right? So don't you feel that? That's what I was feeling during that scene, especially. So I wonder if you guys felt that at all.
I mean, I agree. Totally agree. Men mature way slower than women. And if they are the ages that we think the ages they are, 15, 14, then yeah, she was probably already way more mature. She was able to hold back. He could not. He was speaking with emotion. They were also getting bombed at the same time. So I would imagine that creates a lot of anxiety and stress and emotion, especially when you're about to have this argument with your like person that you mohabbat karti hai iske saath, you know, like that's like another thing, by the way. Like I love you sounds nice, and then main aapke saath mohabbat karta hu is like very like forward.
Intense.
Like intense. So and then that letter does them like that.
The voice acting.
Yeah. The voice acting, yeah, it was like kind of like, oh shit, dude, I didn't know you love me that much. Like that's how it sounds. But no, I agree with you, Imran. Like she held back and he couldn't. But he was a flawed character, right? Like he was a flawed character. The end scene is him sweating and turning into a maniacal like madman until his dad basically snaps him out of it.
So do you guys think he had the plan of sabotaging the rectifiers? Because, you know, when he asks his dad if he can work on them, his dad basically says, no, I don't want you to have anything to do with this. And then he insists, he's like, then I'm going to leave town and just leave everything. And so his dad's like, okay. And I wonder if at that point, like his anger is overtaking him and he is then he decided at that point he was going in to try to sabotage those rectifiers.
Do we not see that? Do we not see the jinn entering him, and then you can see the change?
Yeah, the jinn enters him, and then he comes back and tells his dad that he's going to do it. And if he doesn't agree, he'll leave and join the army. And the dad's like, well, if he's going to join the army anyways, might as well do this. And then when he tells them to pour the special ingredient inside the sand, he decides not to do it to sabotage the rectifier. That's a deliberate move by him.
Maybe the jinn doesn't like war.
That makes sense, yeah.
The jinn is like, stop all these wars, you POSs. I'm just gonna sabotage. That's it.
Stop bombing my beach.
That is true. That is the jinn's beach.
It was a beautiful beach.
Yeah.
I still don't know if the jinn is Lisa's mom or like a good, like I still don't know. We still have not figured this out.
No, Elisa's mom isn't the jinn. Elisa's mom's the monster.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
He's a horrible person.
Vincent's mom. I meant Vincent's mom. Yeah. Elisa's mom gives us all anxiety for obvious reasons.
We're getting PTSD.
We talked about it in many previous episodes. Yeah,
yeah, no, but she's also like, Elisa's mom kind of reminds you of like characters in war movies of kind of like this devoted wife / mother who doesn't actually participate in war, but she's like even more racist than the actual colonels and generals and whatever. She reminds me of like that kind of a character where she's bought into the doctrine even more than Colonel Amano himself.
Yeah.
There's a real life example out there right now. She reminds me of the Syrian dictator's wife. Like it's very like that's her. And Shamim, you're completely correct. Like he might have even gotten inspiration from her to build that character.
I can see that.
She's all about luxury. She's all about, hey, I don't know what's going on as long as I get my my bounties and my luxuries. She seems very much that type.
I think we should talk in detail, though, about obviously the most climactic scene of when they're delivering the rectifiers that Vincent has made, right? They basically are releasing the box down with the rope. It's like really heavy for them. They have to do it very carefully. It takes like both of their strength. And the box obviously has the rectifiers that are sabotaged in it. And so Vincent starts having some kind of like breakdown, or like maybe in his mind it's like a battle between the jinn and him, and he ends up like confessing to his dad that the rectifiers are sabotaged. So his dad tries to pull the box back up, right? And eventually his dad succeeds and pulls the box back up. And then the climactic scene that Imran's been referring to, his dad, in order to do this, has like wrapped the rope around his arm, and then Vincent's like, we need to destroy this box. We just need to destroy this. Like, I can't believe I've done this. I just didn't want the war to keep going on. I didn't want the airplanes to work. And so he pushes the box down. His dad tells him, like, wait, hold on. And he doesn't listen. And his dad's forearm is still wrapped with the rope, and his basically like he amputates his dad's arm.
Now that felt and looked like an anime shot right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got pretty.
But like, do you guys
was
think
like, wow.
that like was this like a good angel devil on his shoulder where he's like, fighting with his conscience on this, or I don't know, it's really kind of unclear on sort of what I thought on that.
Nobody wants to talk about Jinns After Dark, Shabnam. I told you.
Well, maybe everybody's also like confused, right? Like maybe it's up for interpretation then, I guess.
I think he was having quite like a manic episode because like when he pushed the crate off the cliff, he was actually not part of the gym anymore. He was actually trying to help. He was like, no, this is bad. We need to get rid of it. All he had to do was like, hold up, wait a minute, let me get my arm off. And then but I think there was like this sense of like urgency because he couldn't believe what he did and he wanted to get rid of this guilt as soon as possible. And that manifested in him pushing the crate as soon as possible. It almost felt like his mind was on fire and he couldn't think clearly. And I feel like that's kind of how I interpret it, that it happened.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think I agree with that it was almost feels like a manic episode or something.
They were also getting bombed, right?
Yeah.
So they started getting bombed. And that
the ships were rolling through. Yeah,
urgency.
the ships, those airships were coming by. And they were like, we got to go, we got to go.
Yeah. So again, we see Vincent twice come under some sort of like, it wasn't a manic episode when he was talking to Elise while getting bombed, but it was certainly desperation about the love. And now it was desperation about, let's get these faulty rectifiers. Maybe he was afraid that the people that were bombing him were going to come find it. I don't know. Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to join the other side or something. But every time he gets bombed, he does make rash decisions or says rash things. There's like two examples, but both times he did get a little funky.
It's probably his like trauma response to do that.
To get angry or yeah.
Interesting.
There's a lot of PTSD in this.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's commentary on war in that way too. That he's feels out of control, so he gets angry.
Overall, like
Shabnam, you're getting too deep here. All right, relax.
I don't know. I can't get that deep. But overall, the character development, the music, even the voice acting is great. The animation's great. The story itself, overarching, is super unique. Beautiful story. And Imran, you made a great point about the nature where the Glassworker building is on the beach. They take that sand and then they build it into the glass. And that's how, I think he says my great, 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 great grandfather. Right. He says that to Elise at some point. So to imply this is multi-generations of living like this on the beach. So for many, many years, it was obviously a very beautiful life. So overall, this movie just touches on every dramatic theme you can potentially think of. And it like pulls every one of those strings, including I would like to live here. Just a very like idyllic life, hang back and everything's beautiful. Like they touch on everything.
Minus the bombs. I could do without.
I thought it was minus the bomb.
Yeah.
Props to Usman and Kizar, Mariam, and the Mano team for that. And looking forward to their other films too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get one that's not as sad, but just as good.
Man, if they made a Akira
so
version,
I mean,
the Akira version. Imagine a rickshaw that just goes like the Akiras.
just slide. Oh man, that would be sick.
Yeah, I have like an Akira poster up there.
So in the end, Elise ends up leaving town after her dad dies, and she leaves another letter with Vincent's dad at the shop for him, basically telling him that she never thought he was a coward and she loves him. And so that was really beautiful to hear. And then we end with the whole Jinn piece that we talked about early on of like, is the Jinn real or not? Because the Jinn basically, before he throws her letter into the fire, comes out of the fire and takes her form. And yeah, I mean, I don't really know another way to describe
know.
it, but that, yeah.
Jin was just being freaky.
And
Jin's like, it's my time to shine. I'm gonna take this girl's
There we
born.
go.
I'm gonna marry my love.
Also, whose wrath are they living under? Because the previous scene, they're getting bombed, right? I'm assuming they're getting bombed by the enemy, and then they're living in peace and they're at the beach. Or is that a figment of his imagination potentially? When they're on the beach and he's hanging back, kicking his feet in the sand. You know what I mean?
I'd assume there's been like a ceasefire since then.
Yeah, this is post-war. So that scene is post-war because you remember he has his art exhibit and all this stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
He's adult Vincent, so it's post-war Vincent reading that letter and going through the whole past.
The thing is, the movie starts off with the Jinn showing him that box and shining on it to inspire him to open it, and then he finds it. And then the movie ends with him trying to burn that and then shows up. So the Jinn was like orchestrating this whole story from beginning to end in terms of like adult Vincent, like post-war Vincent. Because when he found the letter, he was old enough to, I guess, like move on. And then he basically finds the letter. So I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. But it's just very interesting because the movie starts with the Jinn and ends with the Jinn.
Yeah.
I think
I
we
don't
should
know
make an
either.
investigation called the Jinn Busters.
It's all you, bro.
Yeah.
I'm in.
There you go.
We got to make a song for that. Someone's got to do it.
Gin Busters.
So I know we only have a few more minutes, so we can wrap up.
What's your name of your podcast? And include like where to find you.
So my name is Neves. I go by Watch with Neves. You can find me on everywhere toys are sold: Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, X, TikTok, all of the fun places. And also our podcast, Salaam Nerds, is on YouTube and also iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can find us everywhere. And feel free to hop on. We do our podcast live, so you can jump on in the comment section and give us your real time, thoughts about how badly we're doing. But feel free. We do everything from nerd culture, Star Wars, Marvel, House of the Dragon, to The Bachelor, Love Is Blind. Anything that has a fandom, we will cover it.
Nice. And Jazz, why don't you give your intro outro?
Oh, sure. Yeah. My name is Jazz. I'm the co-host of Salaam Nerds podcast. You can find me at MUAIJAZ everywhere. I don't really do anything social media related. That's just me shit posting. But feel free to follow and have a good time. But really do follow the podcast, Salaam Nerds. That's where you'll find most of my hot takes. It's always a good time. Come through. And thank you for having us.
All right. Fresher than your average. Oh.
Thank you so much, Salaam Nerds. Please check us out next week with Usman Riaz. We do have a conversation with him, director of The Glassworker. Also check out the Midnight Jai Society, our paid subscription feed, which you can find on Substack or Patreon under Jai After Dark. We have true crime episodes. We have episodes revolving around our upbringing and the various nuance of being children of immigrants the last 40 to 50 years. You can always email us at jaiafterdark@jaiafterdark.com. We always respond. And please like, share, subscribe on all social media platforms. And please rate us on Spotify and Apple. We love 5-star reviews, and so far so good. Thank you, everyone, and happy listening.